Here's your YouTube script. Stop throwing away those ugly plastic pots. I'm about to show you how to turn them into something you'd actually want to display in your home, and you won't believe how simple this is. Look, I get it. You buy a cute plant, bring it home, and then you're stuck with that boring plastic container it came in. Or maybe you've got some old pots sitting around that just look sad. But here's the thing. You don't need to spend money on fancy ceramic pots when you can make something way better yourself. I'm talking about crochet flower pot covers. And before you click away thinking this sounds too complicated, trust me, it's not. If you can make a basic chain stitch, you can do this. Actually, even if you've never touched a crochet hook before, I'm gonna walk you through everything step by step. So here's the problem most people run into when they start decorating their homes. You want your space to feel cozy and personal, right? But everything in stores either costs way too much or looks exactly like what everyone else has. Your home ends up looking like a furniture catalog instead of actually reflecting who you are. And plants are supposed to help with that. They bring life into your space. They make the air better. They just make everything feel more alive. But then you've got these plastic pots that totally kill the vibe. They're either that terracotta orange color that clashes with everything, or they're just plain black plastic that screams, "I bought this at the hardware store." You could buy decorative pots, sure, but have you seen the prices on those? A decent ceramic pot can easily cost $15 to $30, and if you've got multiple plants like I do, that adds up real fast. Plus, they're heavy, they break easily, and half the time they don't even have proper drainage holes. That's where crochet comes in. And I know what you're thinking. Crochet sounds like something your grandmother did, but it's actually having this huge comeback right now, and for good reason. It's relaxing, it's creative, and you can make stuff that actually looks good. The best part about crochet flower pot covers is that they're incredibly forgiving. Unlike knitting, where dropping a stitch can mess up your whole project, crochet is way more stable. You can easily undo mistakes, and the texture of most crochet stitches hides any little imperfections anyway. Let me tell you about the basic supplies you need, because this is way simpler than you think. You need yarn, obviously, and here's my advice. Don't go crazy buying expensive yarn for your first project. Just grab some cotton yarn from any craft store. Cotton works great for this because it holds its shape well and you can wash it if it gets dirty. A medium weight cotton yarn is perfect for beginners. Then you need a crochet hook. The yarn label will tell you what size hook to use, but generally for medium weight yarn, you want a hook that's around 5 millimeters. That's like a size H if you're looking at the letter system. These hooks cost maybe $3 to $5, and you can use them for tons of projects. And that's literally it. No fancy equipment, no expensive tools, just yarn and a hook. Now, let's talk about the actual designs you can make. I'm going to give you 5 different options, starting with the absolute easiest and working up to slightly more interesting patterns. But honestly, even the most complex one I'm going to show you is still beginner-friendly. Design number 1 is the simple stripe pot cover. This is perfect if you've literally never crocheted before. You're just going to work in rows of single crochet stitches, changing colors every few rows to create stripes. The single crochet is the most basic stitch there is. You insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through both loops. That's it. You do that over and over, and before you know it, you've got a piece of fabric. For a small pot, you'd make a rectangle that's about as wide as the pot is tall, and long enough to wrap around it. Then you just sew the short ends together, and you've got a pot cover. You can make thin stripes, thick stripes, whatever you want. Use colors that match your room, or go wild with bright, contrasting colors. It's your project. Design number 2 is the granny square pot cover. Now, granny squares sound old-fashioned, but they're actually super trendy right now. And they're called granny squares because they're made up of these clusters of stitches that create a square pattern. You work in rounds instead of rows, which is actually easier in my opinion because you don't have to keep turning your work. For this design, you'd make enough granny squares to go around your pot, then join them together. Each square uses the same basic pattern. You start with a circle of chain stitches, then work clusters of double crochet stitches separated by chain spaces. The result is this really pretty textured design that looks way more complicated than it actually is. Design number 3 is the mesh pot cover. This one's great if you want something more breathable, and it works up really fast. You're basically making a net using chain stitches and double crochet stitches. The gaps in the mesh let you see glimpses of the pot underneath, which can actually look really cool if you've got an interesting pot color. The pattern is super simple. You chain a few stitches, skip a stitch, double crochet, repeat. That creates these little spaces, and because you're skipping stitches, you're making fewer stitches overall, which means the project goes faster. You can adjust the size of the mesh by how many chains you make between the double crochets. Design number 4 is the shell stitch pot cover. This creates this beautiful scalloped edge that looks really elegant. The shell stitch is just multiple double crochets worked into the same stitch, which creates a fan or shell shape. You alternate between these shells and single crochets, and it creates this wave-like pattern. This one looks fancy, but it's really just repetition. Once you get the rhythm down, shell, single crochet, you can almost do it without thinking. And the texture it creates is just gorgeous. It adds so much visual interest to a plain pot. Design number 5 is the bobble stitch pot cover. Bobbles are these little bumps that stick out from your work, and they add this really fun, textured look. You create them by working several stitches in the same spot, but not finishing them completely, then pulling the yarn through all of them at once. It sounds complicated, but once you do it once or twice, it clicks. You can arrange baubles in patterns, make rows of them, scatter them randomly, create flower shapes with them. They add dimension and make your pot cover look really unique. Now let me give you some actual tips for making these pot covers that'll save you a lot of frustration. First, measure your pot before you start. You need to know the height and the circumference. The circumference is just the distance around the widest part. Use a measuring tape or even just a piece of string that you can measure afterward. When you're crocheting, your work should be slightly smaller than the pot's measurements because crochet stretches. If you make it exactly the same size, it's going to be too loose and saggy. You want it to fit snugly so it looks neat and stays in place. Second tip, make a gauge swatch. I know this sounds boring, but just make a small square using your yarn and hook to see how many stitches you're getting per inch. This helps you figure out how many stitches you need to make your cover the right size. It takes an extra 10 minutes, but saves you from having to redo the entire project because it came out the wrong size. Third, think about color choices. Light colors show dirt more easily, so if your plants tend to splash water when you water them, maybe go with darker or medium tones, or use variegated yarn that has multiple colors mixed in. That hides stains really well and looks interesting without you having to change colors manually. Fourth, consider making a base for your pot cover. If you're covering the bottom of the pot too, it gives you a more finished look and protects your furniture from scratches. You can crochet a circle for the base using the same yarn, then attach your cover to it. Or honestly, just set the covered pot on a small cork mat or felt pad. Fifth, add embellishments if you want. Once you've made your basic pot cover, you can sew on crocheted flowers, add buttons, weave in ribbon, whatever makes you happy. This is your project, and there's no wrong way to personalize it. Let me walk you through the actual process of making the simplest version so you can see how doable this really is. We're going to make a basic single crochet pot cover with stripes. Start by chaining enough stitches to equal the height of your pot. So if your pot is 4 inches tall and your stitches are about ½ an inch each, you'd chain 8 stitches. Add 1 more chain for turning. Now, single crochet in the second chain from your hook and in each chain across. When you get to the end, chain 1 and turn your work. Single crochet in each stitch across again. Keep repeating this. Chain 1, turn, single crochet across until your piece is long enough to wrap around your pot. When you want to change colors, just stop in the middle of a row, drop the old color, pick up the new color, and keep going. You don't even have to cut the yarn if you're going to use that color again. Just carry it up the side of your work. Once your piece is long enough, cut the yarn, leaving a tail about 6 inches long. Thread that tail onto a yarn needle and sew the short ends of your rectangle together. Now you've got a tube that slides